Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Hard times have a way of shaking us to our core. Whether it's a personal loss, failure, heartbreak, or just the quiet ache of feeling lost in life, pain doesn't knock politely, it barges in. And in those moments, our first instinct is usually to run. Not physically, maybe, but emotionally. We scroll, binge drink, stay busy, or tell ourselves we're fine when we're clearly not. We numb. We do everything we can to avoid sitting in the discomfort. But the truth is, avoiding pain doesn't actually make it go away. It buries it deeper. And what we bury doesn't die. It festers. Discomfort is not our enemy. In fact, it's often the clearest signal that something in us is shifting, changing, or needing our attention. But we've been taught, often subtly and from a young age, that feeling pain means we're failing. We're weak. We're supposed to stay strong, keep moving, put on a brave face. So instead of letting ourselves grieve, mourn, or process what's happening, we shut it down. The problem with that is, when we numb pain, we also numb joy, connection, creativity, and peace. Emotional numbing isn't selective. You can't mute sadness without also muting happiness. You can't suppress anger and still feel truly alive. To embrace discomfort means choosing to stay present in your pain without trying to escape it. It means saying, this hurts and I'm going to allow it to hurt. Not forever, not all at once, but enough to honor the part of you that's crying out to be heard. When life gets hard, the most powerful thing we can do isn't to power through in the traditional sense. It's to pause, to breathe, to say, what is this moment trying to teach me? Not in a cliche, silver lining kind of way, but in a quiet, honest one. Sometimes discomfort tells us that something we deeply value has been threatened. It tells us where our limits are, where our heart still hopes. Maybe it's showing you how much you care. Maybe it's revealing the gap between where you are and where you want to be. Either way, leaning into that feeling rather than away from it is an act of courage. And it doesn't have to look dramatic. Embracing discomfort might be sitting on your bed with tears running down your face without reaching for your phone. It might be going for a walk and letting your thoughts wander without judging them. It might be admitting to someone you trust that you're struggling. These things aren't small. They're radically brave in a world that constantly tells us to keep it together. Pain is a process, and like any process, it demands time and presence. The more we try to shortcut it, the longer it tends to last. Embracing discomfort isn't about wallowing or self-pity. It's about respect for yourself, for your experience, and for the fact that being human is messy. It's not a flaw in your character to feel overwhelmed. It's not weakness to cry or break down. It's part of being alive. What often surprises people is that once they stop resisting discomfort and begin to allow it, something begins to shift. Not overnight, not always visibly, but internally there's a kind of softening, a gentle reminder that they're still here, still breathing, still capable of finding meaning in the wreckage. That clarity, that groundedness only comes when we stop trying to outrun our feelings and instead make space for them. In hard times, we need less fixing and more feeling. We don't need someone to tell us it'll all be okay. We need someone to sit beside us while it's not. And we need to be that person for ourselves too. Because self-trust doesn't come from pretending we have it all figured out. It comes from proving to ourselves that we can sit with pain and still choose love, still choose presence, still choose ourselves. So if you're hurting right now, don't look away. Don't rush through it just to get better. Stay with yourself, stay with the discomfort, and trust that by doing so, you're not falling apart. You're becoming more whole. That's where real strength lives. Not in the mask of control, but in the heart of honest experience. Shame is one of the most painful and isolating emotions we can experience. It tells us we're not good enough, that we're unworthy of love, that something about us is too broken, too flawed, too much or not enough. And what makes shame so powerful isn't just what it says, it's the silence it demands. It convinces us that if anyone really knew what we were going through, what we've done, or what we feel deep down, they would turn away. So we hide. We smile when we want to cry. We say we're fine when we're falling apart. We carry burdens in silence, hoping no one notices. But shame thrives in secrecy. The longer we keep it locked away, the more control it has over us. It feeds on isolation. It grows in the dark. And the only way to stop shame from taking over is to bring it into the light. That light doesn't have to be a spotlight. It doesn't mean telling the world every detail of your struggles. It means finding even one space, one person, where you can speak your truth without fear of judgment. Because when we speak the things we're most ashamed of, we take away shame's power. We tell ourselves, this is part of my story, but it doesn't define me. We all carry stories that feel heavy. Maybe it's a mistake we made, a failure we can't shake, or a part of our identity we were taught to feel ashamed of. Maybe it's something someone else did to us that we internalize as our fault. And so often we believe we have to carry it alone, but shame can't survive empathy. The moment someone looks at us, truly sees us and says, "Me too," or "I'm still here," shame begins to lose its grip. That connection, real, raw, and human, is what sets us free. Speaking your truth doesn't always mean big declarations. Sometimes it's a quiet conversation with a trusted friend. Sometimes it's writing your feelings down in a journal and reading them back to yourself without judgment. Sometimes it's just saying out loud, "I'm not okay," and letting that be enough. It's not about dramatics. It's about honesty. And honesty takes courage. It takes courage to be seen in a world that often rewards performance over authenticity. But the reward for that courage is real connection, real relief, and real healing. We often think that vulnerability is weakness, that if we let our guard down, people will think less of us. But the truth is, people are drawn to authenticity. We don't connect with perfect people. We connect with real people. The ones who admit their struggles, who show up even when they're scared, who let their guard down and invite us to do the same. When we speak our truth, we give others permission to do the same. We become living proof that it's possible to be imperfect and still be loved, that it's okay to be a work in progress. The longer we keep our pain locked away, the more it distorts our view of ourselves. We start to believe we're the only ones, that we're uniquely damaged. But when we speak about what we've been through, honestly, openly, we begin to realize how not alone we really are. Everyone has their own version of shame. Everyone has something they carry that feels too heavy at times. And yet, when we share our truth, we make that weight lighter, not just for ourselves, but for others too. Of course, not everyone is safe to share your truth with. Speaking up doesn't mean putting yourself in harm's way or giving your story to someone who hasn't earned the right to hear it. Choose wisely. Choose people who can hold space for your vulnerability without trying to fix you or judge you. Sometimes that person is a therapist, sometimes it's a close friend, sometimes it's a support group. But what matters is that you find somewhere to be honest. Because you deserve to live without shame dictating your worth. You don't have to be fearless to speak your truth. You just have to be willing. Willing to face the discomfort, willing to risk being seen, willing to believe that your story matters, because it does. Your truth is not too much, your story is not too messy, and you are not too broken. You are human, you are learning, you are worthy, exactly as you are. Letting go of shame starts with a single brave act, telling the truth. Not the version you think others want to hear, but the real one. The messy, beautiful, complicated truth of who you are and what you've been through. And when you speak it, you begin to reclaim your voice, your dignity, and your freedom. That's not weakness. That's power. Courage is often misunderstood. We picture it as bold, loud, and fearless, something reserved for heroes, leaders, or extraordinary people. We tell ourselves that we'll be brave when the fear is gone, when we feel stronger, more ready, more confident. But real courage isn't about waiting for the fear to disappear. It's about recognizing the fear and choosing to move forward anyway. It's not the absence of fear, it's action in the presence of it. Fear is natural. It's part of being human. It shows up when something matters deeply, when we step into the unknown, or when we risk failure, rejection, or loss. In many ways, fear is a signal that we're on the edge of growth. But if we wait until the fear goes away completely, we'll never take the leap. The people who do courageous things, who speak up, start over, take chances, don't do so because they're fear. They do it because they've decided that something is more important than the fear, that what's at stake is worth the risk. There's a quiet kind of courage that often goes unnoticed. It's the person who shows up to work every day while carrying invisible grief. It's the one who chooses to go to therapy, to make a difficult phone call, or to set a boundary for the first time. It's saying, I need help, or I was wrong, or this isn't working. These moments may not look like bravery from the outside, but they are some of the most courageous acts a person can take. They involve vulnerability, honesty, and the willingness to be seen, not just in strength, but in uncertainty. Courage often looks like doing the next right thing, not the big, impressive thing. It's the choice to take a single step forward when everything in you wants to retreat. It's sending the email, making the decision, having the conversation, even when your hands are shaking. These are the moments that build resilience. Not the moments when everything goes smoothly, but the ones where we push through doubt and show up anyway. We also have to stop believing that courage only counts when it leads to success. Sometimes we act bravely and still fall short. Sometimes we speak our truth and it isn't received the way we hoped. Sometimes we try and fail, but courage isn't about the outcome, it's about the effort. It's about being able to look yourself in the mirror and say, at least I tried. At least I didn't let fear make the decision for me. That in itself is a kind of victory. One of the hardest parts of being courageous is that it often feels incredibly lonely. When you choose to follow your own path, when you take a stand or pursue a dream others don't understand, it can feel isolating. But that's the nature of doing something bold. It requires you to trust yourself more than the opinions of others. It means giving yourself permission to live in alignment with your values, even when it's uncomfortable. And with time, that self-trust becomes your foundation. The more you practice courage, the more it becomes part of you. There's also no such thing as ready when it comes to courage. We think we'll be brave when we have all the answers, when everything is lined up, when we feel fully prepared, but life doesn't work that way. Readiness is often a myth. More often than not, we act while still feeling scared, unsure, and incomplete. That's not a flaw, it's the definition of bravery, stepping into something even when the outcome is uncertain, trusting yourself to figure it out along the way. Courage is also contagious. When you choose to act in spite of fear, you give others permission to do the same. Your willingness to be vulnerable and brave creates space for others to rise to their own moments of truth. You become a mirror, showing them what's possible, not through perfection, but through authenticity. So if fear is present in your life right now, it doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human. The real question is, what are you going to do with it? Will you let it hold you back, or will you let it guide you toward what matters most? Fear will always be part of the journey, but it doesn't get to be in control. Courage is when you feel the fear, acknowledge it, and still say, this matters more. And then you take that step. One shaky, brave step at a time. Perfectionism is seductive. It whispers promises of approval, success, and worthiness. If only we could just do everything right. If we never mess up, never fall short, never let anyone down. It tells us that our value is tied to performance, that we are only as good as our latest achievement, our cleanest version, our most polished self. But beneath the surface, perfectionism is driven by fear, not ambition. Fear of not being enough, fear of failure, fear of rejection. And the more we try to meet its impossible demands, the more disconnected we become from ourselves. Self-compassion, on the other hand, offers a different path. It invites us to be gentle instead of judgmental, kind instead of critical, honest instead of harsh. It says, you're human, you're allowed to struggle, you're allowed to make mistakes, and in that space something shifts. We begin to understand that we don't have to earn our worth. We already have it. We don't need to be perfect to be deserving of love, rest, or peace. We only need to be real. Practicing self-compassion isn't always natural, especially if we've spent years believing that being hard on ourselves is what drives success. But in reality, self-criticism drains us. It doesn't build resilience, it chips away at it. When we mess up, perfectionism says, you're a failure. Self-compassion says, you're learning. One demands flawlessness, the other keeps us moving. One demands flawlessness, the other honors effort. It starts with noticing how we talk to ourselves, especially when we're struggling. That inner voice can be brutal. You should have known better. You're such a mess. No one else struggles like this. But would you ever say those things to a friend, to a child? Of course not. So why speak that way to yourself? Practicing self-compassion means choosing to talk to yourself like you would someone you care about. It means saying, this is hard, but I'm doing my best. Or I made a mistake, but that doesn't mean I'm a bad person. It's not about avoiding accountability. It's about holding yourself accountable without shame. Self-compassion also means giving yourself permission to rest, to pause, to say no. Perfectionism will tell you that you haven't earned rest until the to-do list is done. But the truth is, rest is not a reward, it's a requirement. You don't have to prove your exhaustion to justify a break. You're allowed to care for yourself without explanation. And here's the irony. Self-compassion doesn't make you complacent, it makes you stronger. People who treat themselves with kindness are more likely to bounce back from setbacks, take healthy risks, and grow. Why? Because when failure isn't tied to self-worth, you're free to try. You're not terrified of getting it wrong, because getting it wrong doesn't mean you are wrong. That space creates room for creativity, learning, and joy. We live in a culture that celebrates hustle, achievement, and perfection, but we often forget that what makes us lovable and real isn't our productivity, it's our presence, our ability to show up, imperfect but honest. And the more we chase perfection, the more we hide the parts of ourselves that need the most compassion. The tired parts, the scared parts, the messy, unfinished parts. But those parts deserve love too. It's okay to have high standards. It's okay to want to do well. But perfectionism takes it too far. It makes your value conditional. Self-compassion removes the conditions. It says, I am worthy right now, not when I fix everything, not when I finally become enough, right now as I am. That kind of unconditional self-acceptance isn't weakness, it's the foundation for true growth. So the next time you fall short, ask yourself, can I choose understanding instead of punishment? Can I soften instead of tighten? Can I remind myself that struggle is not failure, it's part of being human? That choice, again and again, is how we build a practice of self-compassion. Not once, not perfectly, but daily. Especially on the days when it feels hardest. You don't have to be perfect to be loved. You don't have to perform to be enough. You are not a project to be fixed. You are a person to be cared for. And the more you offer yourself grace, the more you'll find you have to give to others and to the world around you.